Good morning. We've got a lot to cover today, so we're going to try to go ahead and get started. This is a stage call for Seth McDowell. Well, thank you for being here. Hopefully you've been a part of the Shawnee Trail 101 class that we started off last week that Chad hosted. He is out of town this week, and so he has asked me to substitute for him. My name is Zach Norris. I'm the Deacon of Fellowship here. So today we're going to start with part 2 of Shawnee Trail 101. As a reminder, our calling here at Shawnee Trail is to love God, love others, and make disciples. And our mission is to become disciples who are making disciples. The Shawnee Trail 101 class has 2 objectives that we're going to work on today and next week. The first objective is to meet the ministry leaders and learn a little bit about service opportunities, ways that you can connect with Shawnee Trail and get involved. The second objective is to provide a format where you can actually connect to a ministry, to a small group, and to the family here at Shawnee Trail. As a recap of last week, we learned a little bit about the Welcome Ministry. We learned about missions here at Shawnee Trail, specifically missions abroad. We learned about the youth ministry. We heard about adult education, adult Bible classes. We learned about love packs and also about the women's fellowship here. If you did not get to participate in that, find me afterwards. I'd be happy to share with you kind of the Cliff's Notes version of each of those ministries and help you understand how you can get involved in that. As a reminder, there are packets available also. There are some down front. There are also some on the back row behind Don back there. So the packet looks like this, and as we are, you'll notice that there are page numbers by each of the different people that are presented. If you want to learn more about that specific ministry, there's a little bit more detail about each of those ministries in the packets. So make sure you get one of those. That's not just for visitors. It's not just for new members. That's for everyone here at Shawnee Trail. There's also an I Want to Connect form. This is not a form saying that it is a legally binding contract that you are going to participate in one of these ministries. This is just something that says, hey, I've got some interest in this. I don't want to just sit around in a pew every Sunday and spectate as church goes by. I want to get involved. I want to participate. So these forms are for everyone to fill out. Everyone from this wall all the way to this wall. If you are sitting in a seat or standing in the church building, this is for you to fill out. Bring it back to me. I'll help connect with Chad and to the ministry leaders so that they can give you some more information, give you their more detailed version about what's needed, what are ways that you can get involved and things like that. And at that point, if you decide maybe it's not for me, that particular ministry, that's okay. This is just I want to connect and learn a little bit about the ministry. All right, so today we're discussing the second part a little bit more about loving others. The verse comes from John, the 13th chapter, starting in verse 12. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightfully so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. Let's see here. I tell you the truth. No servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. Okay, today we have a panel of 6 ministry leaders. Starting from left to right, we have David Cartwright, who will be discussing the giving today. We have Jared Gardenhire, who's going to talk about outreach. We're going to have Jerry Carr, who will be talking about benevolence. Chris Perry will be talking about technology. Kent Prince will be talking about small groups. And Seth McDowell, who's going to share with us about the capital campaign. Last week, everybody was given an opportunity to share 2 words, just 2 words was the challenge, that describe your ministry. So, Jared, you've got a microphone. Why don't we start with you? What's 2 words that come to mind when you think about the outreach ministry?
On mine, I would say it's seeking and serving.
Seeking and serving. Chris, you've got a mic too. How about technology? What are the 2 words that come to mind?
I should have thought of this ahead of time.
David, you've got a mic.
Oh, you're still waiting for me.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. Remote worship.
Okay. David, how about it?
Debits and credits.
Debits and credits. Spoken like a true accountant here. Kent, what are 2 words that come to mind when you think about small groups?
Deeper relationship.
Okay. Jerry, how about yourself?
Timely assistance.
Timely assistance. Seth, tell us about the capital campaign. 2 words.
More together.
Oh, that is, man. What are 2 other words? No. Okay. Well, we've got a handful of questions that we want to learn a little bit about each ministry that we can ask. So, Jerry, why don't we start with benevolence? What's the purpose of the benevolence ministry?
Well, excuse me. Well, it's pretty cut and dry. The purpose of it is to assist our members that find themselves in a financial situation where they need help, and that's what the whole benevolence fund is for. Of course, we do help non-members, but certainly in a lesser degree than we would our members.
Okay. Kent, when we're talking about small groups, for anyone who isn't in a small group, why should they join one?
To go back to my 2 words, so you can have deeper relationship with God, and it also helps foster deeper relationship with our brothers and sisters. Let me throw Matthew 22 at us. When Jesus was asked for the greatest commandment, he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And then he throws in the second, love your neighbor as yourself. Small groups can help you grow in that knowledge and love of God and also of your fellow man.
And so if somebody is so compelled by your conversation today that they think, oh, I need to get into a small group, how do they do that?
You can contact any of the small group leaders, or on page 19 should have my contact information, and feel free to reach out to me, and we'll discuss real quickly and figure out which small group would be the best fit for you. Love to help you with that. We do not have a list out front, I don't think, but I have one that I can email quickly.
All right. Get off this mic cord a little bit. Jerry, why don't you pass the microphone to Jared? Jared, why don't you just give us kind of a generic, tell us about your ministry. What is outreach?
Well, it's kind of adding on to what Jerry had talked about. Benevolence on his end. Ours is more of, or mine is on community-based, multiple amounts of people. So, we Love Packs is underneath ours, but we heard about it last week. But, now we're partnering with Miller Elementary and Frisco Threads Closet to help, kids in a lot of different ways for Frisco. We do Bowles Home. So if you don't know about Bowles Home, it's kind of a place where kids are at, just being down from, whatever their family life has been. Now they're more of like in an orphanage type arena. And so we support them, and we do a lot of things for Bowles Home. They just were down with us, and we provide them some things and presents for Christmas and all these type of things that are available, and do a lot of activities during the summer with them and help out. Part of that and underneath that is the Arms of Hope. So there's a big gala that we'll do at Arms of Hope, who is the arm that there's some different buildings that are like Bowles Home. There's one in San Antonio and then one that's here. So we provide a lot of opportunities for the kids in that area. So just a lot of community things that we're trying to do. We've helped out Main Street Church Christ out in Dallas on feeding the homeless. Just a lot of activities for you to be a part of that, you hear that, go and do things, but there's nothing that's available. Well, I'm your person that's going to help you do that. Also, if there's ever a time that, you want to sit down and study with somebody or a group of people, and you don't want to do it by yourself, I'm here to do that with you. So, have my information and call me or text me anytime, and I'm here to help you with that.
Okay, thank you. David, when we're talking about giving, how can someone support the church financially?
Give weekly, every week. We've tried to make this real user-friendly, so there's a number of ways you can do that. But if you're not already contributing weekly to Shawnee Trail, I'd encourage you to do so. And you can do that. There are baskets at the back, so I call that analog giving. My kids say I'm old-fashioned because I write a check. But if you're old enough to have a checkbook and write a check, you can drop one in there. We have an online portal where you can go to shawneetrail.org. You can click on that, and there's a portal where you can give. There's a drop-down menu where you can designate how you would like for that gift to be allocated, be it just a general gift or to missions or to the capital campaign, and there may be other options in there from time to time. But do that, or if you do online bill pay, set Shawnee Trail up in your online bill pay. We collect those checks from our P.O. box every week, deposit them timely, and that's another great way to give. You don't ever have to touch a check. No one ever has to collect a check at church. So there's three real easy ways. And then the fourth way I'll hit on just briefly, and if it resonates with you, you may want to grab me separately, but you can give in kind. And so if you have appreciated capital assets, stocks, bonds, limited partnerships, royalties, things that you think I might want to give a portion or all of that, there's a great tax strategy that's involved with donating that appreciated asset rather than selling it. So feel free to get with me if you fit into that category. We've had a number of our members do that.
Can I just clarify, when he says give weekly, it's WEEKLY, not WEAKLY.
What about meekly? Is that
Meekly's fine too. The other thing I would hit on is twice a year we take up a special campaign, and sometimes more for other reasons. But we take a collection twice annually just for our missions, and we don't budget missions. You guys tell our missions team how much you want to support, and so we ask you to be thinking about that as well as your weekly weekly contribution. Think about twice a year dedicating something to support our mission effort, and that's very meaningful to those missionaries.
Thank you, David. As a financial advisor, your comments about appreciated assets is kind of at my heart. You're right. There are some great tax strategies available, so might as well get the benefit while you can, right? So, okay, let's shift over to technology. Chris, who is able to serve on a technology team?
The great thing about working in technology is the fact that it's a great opportunity for those who want to serve but don't want to be in front of a bunch of people, which seems a little awkward right now, seeing as I'm the technology guy in front of a bunch of people.
Center seat, I might add, too.
I know, I was trying to save that one over there, but yeah, this is fun. And so, really, if you can read, you can serve in the technology ministry. We've got several different areas to serve in, and I have a third and first grade daughters, and they even help back there. Strongly encourage families serving together. In fact, the team that will be working second service is one family, and so. It's a great opportunity for husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, to serve with one another and to serve their congregation. So I'll take just about anybody.
But only people with special technology skills, or?
Absolutely not. No, really, I could take anybody, even if you think you don't know anything about technology. If you look at a soundboard, it looks very, very intimidating. But I promise you, there's only 2 buttons, and you have so much control over whoever's up front. You can mute them, and you can, turn the volume up and down. And that is all you have to do serving back there. The live stream and the slides, those are also, it's pretty simple and straightforward. We actually have a script of how a Sunday morning is going to work, and we follow the script. And that tells you when to click next, essentially, on the slides. And so, if you are good at pressing just one button at a time, that's all we need back there. And the best thing is we'll sit with you and train you on how to do it. We get people that have a desire to serve but don't want to do it front and center. And even if they don't know anything about technology, they're back there with us, learning how to press no more than 2 buttons to make a Sunday morning worship experience, and here go.
One of my favorite parts about serving on technology is I can fill out my the back of the outline or whatever with Seth's, all the fill in the blanks. I can do that before he even says a word, so that's pretty helpful. Seth, tell us more about the More Together campaign.
All right, More Together is the campaign that we did starting in January of 2019 that really is to be the financial support for the 3 major goals that we identified in the fall of 2018. And if you're new here or you don't remember, our 3 major goals was, number 1, we wanted to create a culture of discipleship here in this church family. We said we wanted to become a church planting church in North Texas. And then we said we also, because of the way God is blessing us with numerical growth, we need to figure out a plan for handling the growth that he sends us here. If we're going to make more disciples, we've got to make room for more disciples. And so in March of 2019, in January of 2019, we began a campaign through teaching and all kinds of things. And in March of 2019, Shawnee Trail gave financial pledges over the course of 3 years. You pledged $2.2 million to go toward these efforts. Since then, we are almost 3 years into it. March is 3 years. We have received 1.7 of the 2.2 million pledged. We're sure that there's about 200,000 we're not going to get from people who have passed away or left the church for one reason or another, whose financial situations have changed, and we, expect that from the beginning. But that's really what the More Together campaign was, and the idea is we are more when we're together. When we pool our resources, our gifts, our talents, all those things, we can accomplish so much more than just trying to do it by ourselves.
Okay, so there's three major goals between the providing the space, planting the church, and the culture of discipleship. Can you give us an update on those three real quick?
Can, yeah. So really the most important one for us is creating a culture of discipleship. It's also, frankly, the hardest one to do. And so we've been working hard on that. I felt like we really had started to pick up some steam, and then COVID hit, and we kind of lost a lot of that. But we're trying to rebuild it. But a lot of really great things have happened in the past couple of years around this idea of discipleship. We've talked a lot about Discovery Bible Studies. I probably should have looked this up. We probably have it somewhere, but I'm going to guess we've had between, I'm going to say 70 and 100 DBS Bible studies that have gone on over the past 2 years or so. We've been teaching evangelism. I don't know if you've noticed some an increase in baptisms over the last few months. I think in the last 4 months we've had 10 Bible studies with people, many of which have led to baptisms, and we're doing more and more of those and training people how to do those. There's been a great focus on family discipleship. Remember, we had a family VBS, a different way of doing it this year. We had a family road trip. We've got the Faith at Home Center, which we unfortunately opened up 2 weeks after the church closed down, and it was not good timing, but and we need to kind of talk more about that. But just really focusing in on making disciples who are making disciples, and doing that within the family, doing that at church, doing that outside of the church. And so that's the number one goal, which is the most important, because if we don't do that, the other two, frankly, don't happen and don't matter. Mm-hmm. So the second one is our goal of becoming a church planting church in North Texas. We believe for the kingdom to grow, there need to be more churches. And so obviously we've been talking about this a lot, but in January of next month, a new church will be started in Salina, the Crossway Church of Christ. We're sending about 130 people who are part of this church, and then really more who have been attending for a while to start that church. And the idea behind it is that it will be an autonomous church. It's not a campus. It's not anything like that. But our prayer and our goal is it will be a very closely partnered church, that we will do things together. We can do more together than we can do by ourselves. And so the next church we plant, hopefully, will be a Shawnee Trail Crossway church plant. And so that's our goal. We don't have a timeline we're not saying every 3 years or every 5 years. We're trying to follow where God is leading us in that area. The third part, and frankly the least important part, but a necessary part, is to develop a facilities plan so that we can continue to grow here. We're going to continue planting churches, but hopefully we're making disciples fast enough, and God's blessing us that we're going to grow here as well. And so we have gone through a lot of things. We have an incredible building committee and leaders, our elders who are working on this. We talked right before COVID hit about the Hudson building over on Preston Road. I don't know if you remember that. We went very deep into that, and thankfully God protected us from that. Because we would have closed on a building right before COVID hit. We'd have had 2 payments on a building through COVID, and we could have done it, but it would not have been ideal. And ultimately, the place isn't the ideal place. And what we've been blessed is in 2021, God made available the land right behind us, 4.5 acres that we've added to our 2.5 acres to give us 7 acres. Dave's good at math. And land here is not cheap. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. 4.5 acres was $2.4 million. And so it costs a lot of money to do that. And that's not really how we love to spend our money. But again, it may be a necessary, I'm not going to call it a necessary evil, but it's a necessary thing. And so I want to talk for just a minute, and I appreciate you guys giving me a little extra time. I told you last week I was going to give you a sneak peek on some of the things that we're working on when it comes to this new property, the plans that we have. And I want to stress, and I mean stress, what I'm about to share with you is ideas and concepts nothing concrete. We have met with a team of architects. We are meeting with the city of Frisco on January. Please be praying for that meeting. The city of Frisco is particular in how you do things. And we want to do things the right way and still hopefully get the things we think we need. So be praying about that meeting, our initial meeting with them, of what they're going to let us do and how they're going to let us do it. But I want to. Right now, what we're talking about is really 3 phases of using this new property. The first phase is we want to, as soon as possible, get some portable classroom space, kind of just right back out here off of the parking lot. If we could add 3 classrooms. We could have smaller adult classes, more discussion, more deep relationships being built. We can make more room for our kids' classes. It is just a win-win. If we could just get a couple of portable buildings out there, that would be a huge blessing for us. The pictures that I'm showing you, and all of these are just pictures off the internet. These are what we're doing. These are just concepts, ideas. Don't take anything as this is exactly what we're going to do. We're very early in the process. So that's really phase 1. As soon as possible, we want to get some portable classrooms to make space. Phase 2 is really a 2-part deal. We want to build something for our kids. I don't know if you see after second service, we got about 50 kids up here on stage, swimming in the baptistry and doing all kinds of things. We would like to have a place, not
practicing.
That's
Practicing
right. That's
in the
right.
baptistry.
Not just like after church they can go, but a place where they can, during the week, meet with their friends, where families can come together, where parents can fellowship and kids can play together. Just a great place where our community can come and we can build relationships through that. So we want to build a playground. With that, we want to build some kind of outdoor gathering place, again, where parents can hang out while their kids meet. Also a place that would have been very useful 18 months ago when we couldn't meet in our building. And so a place, again, the community can use, where we can have events. The kids, the youth, adults can all use it. So maybe a pavilion, seating area, whatever it may be, all concepts. That's part of what we want to do. And then another part of this second phase is we want to do some activity space. This is something that, frankly, the city of Frisco, is very big on, and I'm not going to say requires, but almost requires if you're going to do anything. And so we're looking at maybe a soccer field, maybe a covered pavilion like you see over here on the bottom. Again, multi-use space where we can have activities, community can have activities. I mean, think about, we've got the volleyball place over here. We've got D-bats over here. We've got others.
Don't forget badminton.
Yeah. Think about when people drop off their kids, if they could have a place to come and hang out, and we could meet them and build relationships with them all week long. And so that's the kind of things that we're thinking about. And so that's phase 2, playground, outdoor space. Phase 2, we would love maybe by the end of 2022 to have something like that. Again, all depending on what the city will allow us to do. And then our third phase, which is just very much in the idea phase, and we don't really have a timeline for, is a building back here. A worship space, adult classroom space, and fellowship space, something we just don't have here. Now, obviously, again, these are concepts. Our drum set would be much bigger than the drum set on there. These are just pictures off the internet. But we want to have lots of fellowship space, lobby space. We don't want to build a giant auditorium. Maybe something a little bit bigger than this. But we want to keep planting churches. We want to keep having multiple services, all of that. We're not trying to become a mega church. We just want to be ready for what God gives us. And then ultimately, if we do that, then hopefully this space would become a great space for our teens and youth, or however we decide to do it. We would love to have them connected in some way, and a great outdoor space in between them. Those are just, again, concepts, ideas that we're working on. But we are meeting with the city of Frisco in January to decide what they'll let us do and how they're going to require us to do it. So be praying about that. And praying for our guys, Dave, Brian, Jay, Kelly, all who are part of our building committee, our elders, to just try to make the wisest decisions we can. Because we set these 3 goals and we want to accomplish them. And we're going to, just because 3 years is up, we're not done with any of these things. So that's an update, a long update on those 3 goals. Thank you for your patience.
Well, I was really excited to find out this morning that after second service, we're going to be building a scale model with these boxes. So that's, Chris, something that's kind of been on my brain, you were talking about volunteering with technology. I like that idea, but what if something goes wrong?
Panic.
That's right.
The church has had no problem growing without the need of technology. And so if something goes wrong, you know what, that's okay. In fact, everybody that is up here front and center knows how to work around technological issues because they occur more often than you think, and most people don't even realize it. It was only a few months ago that our fiber line went out, and we didn't have the ability to do our live stream. Last week, the microphones are misbehaving, and we had some issues with the microphones. It all happens, and we make adjustments. We switch from the headset mics to maybe the handheld mics. It's really no big deal whatsoever. And here's the thing is, if something does go wrong, there are people in here that can help and will help. And as I mentioned before, especially if you're new to this, don't have a technological background, we mentor people. We sit with people for, sometimes, weeks or months until they're comfortable to operate independently. And so if, and quite frankly, when something goes wrong, it's no big deal whatsoever. We just move on, and we don't need the PowerPoint or these microphones or the lights or whatever it might be in order to worship God. We can continue going on. And so I wouldn't let the possibility of an issue stop you from wanting to serve. We'll prepare you, and even though I just listed several technological issues that happened recently, there's actually very few times where the technology fails. We've done a lot, especially since COVID, to make our systems more robust, and the issues that were actually going on were outside of the church's control. And so don't let that be a hindrance to you wanting to serve or to learning something new. You don't have to panic.
Well, I noticed that even as you sit up here on stage, you've got an iPad or a Chromebook over there or something, so it looks like you're already prepared for any type of mishap that could go wrong. You're not back there in the technology center.
I was a slacker this week, and I didn't think about the fact that I would not be working back in the sound booth and that I was required to be up here, up front. And so I was fortunate enough to find Charlie McDowell, who's running the live stream right now. I couldn't find Keith Mullins. I was going to pick on you to run sound, and so I can run it remotely here, and which is also sometimes if somebody's new but they want to be independent, I can. There's a couple of us that can manage things remotely and assist without drawing attention to anyone.
That's great. Kent, we talked about how we can get involved in small groups, and I appreciate that, and I am fully committed that we need to be a church that has got everybody in a small group. Well, tell me a little bit about what your greatest need is for volunteers in the small group ministry. How can we kind of step it up a little bit?
Our greatest need is for additional small group leaders or small group co-leaders. We've got a handful of small groups that I kind of have to wink or squint or make a funny face when I say small group because they are not small. They're becoming pretty big and need to birth additional groups. So within groups, we need to some folks to step up and help us birth new groups. But we also need, beyond that, just additional groups. If you do some quick math, that we're a congregation of roughly 600 people, and we have 20 small groups. 4 of those are dedicated to Crossway. So we need more small groups.
Yeah, my
and more small
math
group
says
leaders.
that's 30 per group. That seems not small.
That's not small, yes. And so that's what we need. And it's something that's fairly easy to do. It takes some dedication, but it's fairly easy to do. Every week, Seth sends out a discussion guide that the small group leaders can work through, and so it's really easy on that. Also, if I can loop back to a question you asked me a little bit ago, I want to highlight the fact that we've got a lot of guests that are coming, and guests are most certainly welcome in small groups. Usually, I'm finding that when new members place membership, about 50% of them are already a part of a small group, and that's wonderful. But we want to invite any other guests that we have to join our small groups as well.
So to lead one of those, we need a master's in theology, or is that...
You do not need a master's in theology.
Good.
Again, with regards to the subject matter itself, you can take Seth's discussion guide and just work through it. It is largely a discussion with the group, and so the group is going to provide most of the verbiage throughout the evening, and you help guide that and ask questions. The biggest qualification is a love for God and a love for your fellow man. That's the biggest requirement.
Great. Jared, what are some community ideas that you're looking forward to in 2022?
Well, Marianne and I, we kind of pitched this together and started talking a little bit about, and Seth and I are going to talk a little more about it as well. One of the things that I want to do next year, which is may sound crazy, but everybody in here at some point in time, I want to eat a meal with you in groups, because I think we do as a community need to be a community here at Shawnee Trail. So for us to be able to go out and bring people here and baptize them and be the community that the disciples that Seth talks about in discipleship, we have to be able to be together and be able to talk to each other and get to know each other. Y'all need to know who I am. I need to know who you are. We need to take each other's burdens and the things that go on. And so that's my goal for next year is to have a meal, if not one, maybe more of, and maybe have a group of people who are with me that go out and have meals with other of you. So that way we're eating together as that happened in the early church. They ate together, and as they did that, their church grew, and more people came. So I think we need to get away from what we're doing in life and get more into being in our community, bringing more people in, eating together again, and worshiping and praying and just being what Seth talks about every day that we need to do. So that's what we're going to talk about doing next year for sure. And then, my thing is any and every idea that you may have to go out in the community, I'm open. So call me. Again, I'm here to, if you're sitting there thinking about you want to do something, but I don't want to do this by myself. I just don't have the courage to do that. I'm here to do it with you. So, that's part of what I want to do is, again, let's go out there and let's bring more in. Let's tell people about Jesus and what he's done and help the homeless, help our communities, help love packs. You can start small with all the little things that are going on with love packs or the Bruce Dunn Cottage that we help and different things that are out there that I can talk to you about. And then we'll grow from there. Just as he says, when your talents, they start small, and then they're going to get bigger, and they're going to grow them. That's what we're looking to do for everybody, and myself included. So that's my goal for next year.
Okay. I look forward to that meal. Food's my favorite. So, David, what is expected from a member when it comes to giving?
Zach, I think the first thing we want is for each of our members to live out Paul's teaching. And the verse that I have here is 2 Corinthians 9, verse 7. Paul says, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. So what we teach at Shawnee Trail is what we call first and 10 giving. So, what that looks like is first, we give the first fruits of whatever we get. We want to dedicate that to God, and we do that through the local church. One verse that highlights that is Proverbs 3, verses 9 and 10. He says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. So, the idea there is whatever you're going to do for the church, purpose to give first to God and then worry about whatever else there may be, obligations, payments, things of that nature. But first give to God, and then the 10 part of that is 10%. If you look in the scripture, it's replete, really even before the old law, with the idea that 10% is an amount that is dedicated for God. Leviticus says a tithe of everything from the land, whether grains from the soil, fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It's holy to the Lord. So, this idea of being a first giver and a 10% giver comes from Scripture. Christ repeats it in the New Testament when he's talking to the Pharisees. He says, hey, it's great that you give 10%. Now, you need to also pay attention to the other parts of the law, justice, mercy. Don't forget to give, but also do these things that are even more important than that. So, I can't point you to chapter and verse in the New Testament where it says, thou shalt give 10%. But we do think that the Bible gives a great scriptural example of that. And so we teach first and 10. Now, that said, if you're not at a spot where you can give 10% cheerfully, then don't do that. Give what you can give cheerfully. But I think look, we recognize that, especially the way our world is today, there's demands of our money, of our time, of everything. And so the most important thing is let's put God first, and purpose to do, if you're not at 10%, purpose to do something consistently for the church here locally and participate in that work.
Thanks. How about Jerry? What are some ways that someone can identify a benevolent need for the church?
Okay. I think first I need to say that we are very aware of how difficult it is for anyone to come to the church and say, I need help in a financial situation. We understand that. So we don't take that lightly. So I would recommend that if you find yourself in that situation, and if you're part of a small group, reach out to the people you have a relationship with the most, and that's your small group and your small group leader. But ultimately, if you're not a part of the small group, you can talk to an elder. You can talk to the staff. Ultimately, what needs to be done is the deacon in charge of benevolence needs to be able to start the process and the communication process with the individual that needs help. That's pretty much the bottom line. And that process will begin, and we do have a process that we have to sit down with the individual and talk to them about their particulars and find out exactly what the need is so we can best meet that need. Rest assured that that process is very confidential. It's not shared with anyone other than the individual, the benevolence deacon, and the individual that has to write the checks. That's it. No one else is involved in that process. Now, there is data that has to be kept. We have to keep empirical data for budget situations and to know the history of the situation. So ultimately, let somebody know the need is there, and when the process happens, we can take care of that need for the individual. As far as anybody wanting to work in that area, I know it's not exciting. I know there's much more, lots of areas of work in the church that are much more exciting than benevolence, but nothing is more rewarding. So if you find yourself, you think you want to do that kind of work, then contact me and we will either plug you in, not as maybe as a deacon at that point, but we'll certainly let you go through the process with us and see if that's something you want to do in the future.
Thank you. Seth, I just have one final question, really, and we talked about the capital campaign and the goals and everything. Is it over? Is the capital campaign over, or is there still an opportunity to participate?
I'm glad you asked that. I forgot you were going to ask that. I'm glad you did, because it reminds me. As we said, we started 3 years ago, so March is the 3-year mark. I mean, it was a 3-year pledge. And so here's what we're doing to maybe help with that. We have decided we are going to extend the campaign through the end of 2022. And so what that means is if you made a pledge that you were going to give a certain amount of money by March of 2022, you now have till the end of 2022 to do that. We're not asking you to add on. We're not asking you to pledge more. We're just saying we want to give you 9 more months. It's been a hard couple of years. And so we want to give you 9 more months. And if you can do it by then, great. And again, we're not coming hunting for anything. So we are extending that as well. Also, we want to invite new members. We've got a lot of new members who have joined over the last 3 years. And at the beginning of this, like I said, we taught on it, we preached, we had classes, we had all kinds of things. We're not going to do that now, but we would love to invite any new member who has come to Shawnee Trail because they see a church that's living out a vision and you want to be a part of that. If you want to be a part of that by getting involved, as we're talking about here, by serving, by doing ministry, but also if you want to get involved financially, to support that work financially, we want to give you that opportunity. And so out on the welcome desk, there are these little blue bags that are 3 years old. They have information that's all 3 years old, but explains what we're doing. It explains everything we set out to do. You can take one of those, and if you want to say, I want to pledge for 2022, whatever, $1,000 or $10,000 or $7 million, whatever it is you want to do, you can do that. Or if you want to say, I want to give $100, whatever it is, we want to invite you to participate in that. Hopefully you've been blessed by being here. Hopefully you've been blessed, will be blessed by being here. And if you want to be a part of what we're doing financially, we want to invite you into that. You can come talk to me. You can talk to Dave. You can talk to Don Mullins or Kelly Grant. We're all very involved in that campaign and can answer any questions. Carla can probably answer a lot of questions for you as well. If you'd like to participate financially, we want to give you the chance. So for 2022, if you want to make a pledge, a one-time gift, whatever it is, we would be more than happy to accept that and use that to make disciples, plant churches, and grow here in this place.
Well, thank you, Seth, and thank you to everyone else that was participating today, and thank you all for being here. With the last 60 seconds that we have, I'll give you a sneak peek of next week. I'm really excited about the first 2 people up there, but we're going to hear about children's ministry. Amber Norris, our children's minister, will be sharing with that. I'll be sharing about the men's fellowship. Mike Lawson will talk to you a little bit about worship prep. Carla's going to talk about facilities. Greg Carmen will talk about the care ministry. And Chris Kane will talk about the safety ministry. And so I'm looking forward to next week. Thank you for being here. As a reminder, there are packets available. There are some down front. There are some in the back. And make sure you fill out that connect form, bring it back with you. This church is supposed to be a church, just like every other church is supposed to be a church, of people that are involved, people that are active. We live out our faith by doing. And so find a way to get connected. I'm a firm believer that if something is draining you, it is not the area that you're supposed to be serving in. But if you'll find the area that you are supposed to be serving in, that God is calling you to, it will provide you with energy, and you will be enthused about that. So figure out where you want to serve this community of believers and get connected. Thank you so much.